there. That startled me, and he told me, and it's written over and over in hundreds of books, and he said it many times, that when he was a child, he stood by the window watching other children play baseball, and he couldn't do that because he was instructed to train and practice and rehearse and train and practice and rehearse and sing and sing. So definitely, we all know that he had no childhood. Can you imagine all this pressure, this gigantic mammoth pressure in and on your life throughout his 45 years of understanding who he was? Only a doctor will tell you what really happened in his heart. All I can say, and I would like to end this interview with this, that he will be greatly, greatly missed. The world lost a great person, a great man, a great father, a strange person, maybe weird, a little, but a musical genius. And I think we all know that.
Uri Geller, thank you very much for joining us this evening with your thoughts on Michael Jackson.
Thank you.
You're watching Sky News. It's just past 1 o'clock in the morning. Our breaking news this hour: the pop star Michael Jackson is dead. The 50-year-old singer was taken to hospital after suffering a suspected heart attack at his Los Angeles home. Doctors were unable to revive him, and in the past hour, he was pronounced dead. The Los Angeles coroner says a post-mortem examination is expected to take place on Friday, while his death has left fans around the world in shock. These are the scenes at UCLA Hospital in Los Angeles, where Michael Jackson was pronounced dead earlier on tonight. Hundreds, if not thousands of people are streaming to the site to pay their respects to the pop star who passed away this evening from a cardiac arrest. You can see the people streaming into the site there. As long as the media crews, it's expected that this place will, for the moment, become a shrine to those fans who want to pay their respects and be a part of an event which will go down in the cultural history of the United States. Well, let's just remind you of the events which took place this evening. At 12:21 p.m. local time in Los Angeles, a Los Angeles fire crew was called, paramedic crew was called to the home of Michael Jackson. And these are pictures, it's believed, of that fire crew arriving at the scene, played out earlier on Hollywood TV. Well, it's thought that the pop star had suffered a cardiac arrest. Crews there tried to resuscitate him, but unfortunately failed to do so. They rushed him to hospital at the UCLA hospital in Los Angeles. There, he was pronounced dead. We also have a still picture of what's believed to be Michael Jackson being stretchered into the hospital. This has all come in, broken on the TMZ entertainment website in the United States. Well, it took around 45 minutes for other news agencies to confirm the fact that Michael Jackson had suffered a cardiac arrest, and the paramedic teams confirmed with the Los Angeles Times sometime later that Michael Jackson, the 50-year-old pop star, had died. We know that his family rushed to be by his bedside. Hollywood legend Elizabeth Taylor, who was a close friend of Michael Jackson, was also at the hospital. The TMZ website reported that when he was rushed into the site, the people with him, it's not clear if that was family or friends, were screaming, "Please save him, please save him." Well, Robert Nisbet, our US correspondent, has been following events in Washington. Robert, we were speaking to you a little earlier and we were saying it's going to clearly become a shrine for people who want to pay their respects to Michael Jackson as this news slowly sinks in there.
That's right, not just outside the UCLA Medical Center, but I'm seeing reports that also outside the legendary Apollo Theater in Harlem in New York, one of the first places where a very young Michael Jackson performed with his siblings. We believe people are gathering there. I'm also hearing that there are people leaving flowers on his particular pavement on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. If you visited that part of Hollywood, you'll know that along the stretch stretch of Hollywood Boulevard near the Grauman's, so in front of the Grauman's Chinese Theatre. There are many paving stones that are dedicated to celebrities. One of those has Michael Jackson's name on it, and I've heard that dozens of people are now gathering there as well. And I expect to see it around the world, especially in parts of Asia, where Michael Jackson was also extremely popular, where his popularity may have dipped in other places, in Japan and in South Korea, where he still remains one of the most popular celebrities. They will also be showing their feelings, I imagine, in this similar way. But of course, in the United States, on the East Coast, it is 8:05 now. The news is probably just sinking in as people return home from work, and I think you will start to see more people reacting at places that were associated with Michael Jackson. For instance, Gary, Indiana, the city where the Jacksons hailed from. Already the mayor has given his reaction, saying he has a heavy heart. There is a museum given over to the Jackson family in Gary, Indiana, as there is indeed in Detroit, in Michigan, where, of course, Motown was based, and that was the first record label that Michael Jackson and his family were signed to back in the 60s. So around all of these various areas that are associated in some way with Michael Jackson, expect to see people gathering and leaving probably floral tributes over the next few hours and days.
Robert, for now, thank you. Well, earlier, Reverend Al Sharpton, the civil rights campaigner and close friend of Michael Jackson, gave his reaction outside the UCLA Medical Center.
I remember in 2002, he did a show here for raising money for the Democratic Party. And later we met that night, and it led him to talking about how he felt he'd been treated unfairly in the music industry. And he marched the streets of Harlem with us and came to the Harlem headquarters of National Action Network, where many ridiculed him. It's amazing in the last hour to see how many people are now praising him that wouldn't go near him in the last several years and condemned him. In my last conversations, including conversations a couple of months ago when I was teasing him, I was coming to England to see him perform again, he talked about how many people had let him down, but I told him it didn't matter, he had never let the fans down. I remember introducing him at James Brown's funeral. James Brown was like a father to me and was Michael's idol. And I'll never forget him calling me, saying he wanted to view James's body in the middle of the night. And I arranged for him to go to the funeral home in Augusta, view his body, and convinced him to stay. And he spoke at the last funeral of James Brown, his idol, that we often talked about. In fact, my favorite picture I kept was way before the Victory Tour was Michael, James Brown, Janet, and I. We all were much younger then, in California, about 1980. And we went back about 35 years. We marched together. We fought together. I watched him do shows. I headed community affairs for his Victory Tour. I watched him sell stadiums out. Michael Jackson made culture accept a person of color way before Tiger Woods, way before Oprah Winfrey, way before Barack Obama. Michael did with music what they later did in sports and in politics.
That was the Reverend Al Sharpton speaking a little early outside the UCLA hospital. Let's go back to Robert Nisbet in Washington now. Robert, Al Sharpton sort of touched on it there, the huge impact he had as an international star throughout the world, but in particular on the black community in the United States.
That's right, and he is credited in many respects in uniting black and white music traditions, which of course he played on in his song Black and White. Certainly many people compared him to James Brown in that respect, and you heard Al Sharpton talking about Michael Jackson performing at his funeral. So Michael Jackson will be remembered for many things, in a way almost a cultural bottleneck, in that he not only represented this huge kind of superstardom certainly in the 80s, that was producing stars such as him and Madonna, who, of course, was the same age as Michael Jackson. They were both 50. Madonna is still 50. And he not only came to talk about and talk to his race and his difficult beginnings, but also straddled musically a number of different genres and went on arguably to become the most successful pop performer of all time. And certainly the songs and the album that he created together with Quincy Jones on the 1983 Thriller album certainly was the most successful album across the world by a solo performer. And more than that, it obviously influenced production techniques and musical styles from many performers that followed. But yes, the racial element is important in this and was a frequent bugbear, certainly, in how the tabloids treated him. If you remember, there were certain allegations that he had whitened his skin in the mid-90s, early to mid-90s, during the case and the child sex abuse allegations that he faced in 93. He admitted that he had some skin discoloration issues, which he put down to impetigo. But some people suggested that he was trying to whiten his skin and that he was distancing himself from the black community. But you will see tonight the likes of Al Sharpton, Representative Al Green in Congress has made some remarks. Leaders of the black movement coming around tonight and really being the first people to add their tribute. So certainly the standard bearers of the black community in the United States certainly are claiming him as one of their own. But it certainly was an issue that dogged him throughout his life, whether he was trying to, in effect, betray his race.
OK, Robert, for now, thank you. Well, let's go to Derek Rawdon, who was Michael Jackson's former tour manager. He joins me on the line now. Derek, very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. What's your reaction to this news this evening?
Well, let me correct you. I wasn't Michael's tour manager. I was the promoter in the UK and Europe and toured Michael and his brothers, the Jacksons, back in the 80s, late 70s and 80s. My reaction is obviously one of absolute shock and horror that this has happened to such a very fine human being. Michael, who I've known since he was 18, although I haven't had a lot of close contact, saddened and upset and angry, and really couldn't understand why the person that he is could have those charges leveled against him.
And Derek, how will you remember him as a performer?
As a performer, he was without question the most talented entertainer, all-round entertainer. The only thing he did not do on stage was comedy, but he was very funny in his private life. He was very, very talented, and he'll be remembered as, he was known as the king of pop, but he was far more than that.
As a promoter, how did you view the tour he was about to embark on, this 50 dates, a huge physical undertaking for a man of 50? What was your view on that when you heard about it?
I was a little surprised that he wanted to do something so strenuous after such a long hiatus of not touring and not working. I think that, I don't know, quite frankly, because I didn't discuss it with him, but I think it was a little unfair on him to put that kind of stress on him. After being out of the world of touring, which is extremely arduous for such a long time, I think it was very brave to think about undertaking it.
Derek Rawdon, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Well, we're getting more response from people around the world, celebrities in particular, on Twitter. P. Diddy has said, Michael Jackson showed me that you can actually see the beat. He made the music come to life. He made me believe in magic. I will miss him. And Kelly Rowland has also posted a message on Twitter saying, I cannot believe this is true. Michael, you left such a legacy on this earth, have touched so many. We thank you for such a driving inspiration in music and our lives. This has got to be one of the saddest days in music history. Michael, rest in peace. We miss you. And Missy Elliott, another pop star, has also left a message saying, R.I.P. Michael Jackson. Very sad. Well, Quincy Jones, who produced Michael Jackson's legendary Thriller album, has made this statement. He He said, "I'm absolutely devastated at this tragic and unexpected news. For Michael to be taken away from us so suddenly at such a young age, I just don't have the words. Divinity brought our souls together on The Wiz and allowed us to do what we were able to throughout the 80s. To this day, the music we created together on Off the Wall, Thriller and Bad is played in every corner of the world. And the reason for that is because he had it all: talent, grace, professionalism and dedication. He was the consummate entertainer, and his contributions and legacy will be felt upon the world forever. I've lost my little brother today, and part of my soul has gone with him." And that was the statement from Quincy Jones. Well, this is how New Yorkers on Times Square are reacting to the news.
Yeah, it's very, very sad. It's very, very sad. He's like an idol to everyone, to all the people in this world, you know. Yeah. All over the country, all over the world. He's like an idol to everybody. Kids look up to him, old people, you know. It's very sad. I really feel bad. I feel like crying myself.
And I was hoping that maybe he'd come to New York too. I would have paid anything to see him.
What legacy does he leave?
Well, I just think his music, his videos, his talent just speaks for itself. That's all I can really say right now. I'm really upset about it. Thank you. Sorry.
Him, I know his family's probably hurt. He was like the best thing out the whole Jackson 5.
Distraught when I heard that. I cried. Did you see me cry?
Actually, I found out. I actually told him about it.
He's my lifelong idol. I thought he was immortal. I thought he would never die, and he died. Like, that stuff doesn't happen, you know?
That was reaction from New Yorkers in Times Square, giving their response to the news that 50-year-old pop star Michael Jackson has died tonight. Well, this is the scene live at UCLA Hospital in Los Angeles. This is where Michael Jackson was taken when he was picked up by paramedics earlier on tonight, around 12:21 p.m. local time in Los Angeles. There was an emergency call. Paramedics responded, arrived at his Holmby Hills home in Los Angeles. There, they reported that he suffered cardiac arrest. They attempted CPR, attempted to resuscitate him. He was rushed to this hospital, and there, paramedics, doctors pronounced him dead on arrival, where we are expecting a statement from medical staff at the hospital at some point in the next few hours. But in the meantime, as you can see, not just media crews, but hundreds of ordinary people descending on the scene there, waiting for news, some no doubt there to pay their respects and to be part of what no doubt will go down in history as a very significant cultural event. Well, Greg Milam, our US correspondent, has been following events for us as they've unfolded there throughout the evening. And as we were hearing from New Yorkers, Greg, this news slowly sinking in with Americans there that this cultural icon, Michael Jackson, has died tonight. Sorry, Robert Nesbitt, our correspondent, is there. Robert, I was just saying we're watching scenes of this event unfolding at Los Angeles at the hospital, and people very much wanting to be part of this as it unfolds tonight.
That's certainly right, and I think that the Twitter sphere certainly was alive with texts from stunned, shocked fans who were following the news, and I think as people saw it, they rushed to UCLA Medical Center. These aren't necessarily, as you point out, diehard fans, but I'm sure amidst their number are a number of people who just want to be part of the event, because this is obviously an enormous story for the United States culturally. And I think the reason why so many people are fascinated by him was really displayed by the fact that there were cameramen outside his home, his rented home where he was rehearsing for his performances in London, who have captured a lot of the activity when emergency services were called, of an ambulance rushing away with him inside, outside. There was even one photographer who has managed to get a photograph of what appears to be Michael Jackson on the gurney being put into that paramedic's truck and then taken away. And this just shows the level of fascination of this man, who hasn't really had not even a top 20 hit in the United States for a decade, and yet he has certainly fascinated the media and fascinated people, as I suppose we have seen his sad decline. And a lot of that, I suppose, fans and admirers will chart to his decision to appear on the documentary that your last guest was referring to, which was Living with Michael Jackson, which was put together by Martin Bashir, the television journalist, which many Michael Jackson fans said was, and Michael Jackson himself said, was completely unfair to the singer, that it was edited in such a way to portray him in a particularly bad light. I think the phrase which triggered off many of the fans' anger was the sequence in which he was asked whether he allows children into his bed, and Michael Jackson said yes, he did. But in the unedited footage, according to Michael Jackson, he said, well, I sleep on the floor while they sleep in the bed. And of course, one of the children that was involved in that documentary later turned out to be his main accuser in court. But of course, Michael Jackson was cleared of all charges. So there was a lot of anger, certainly in the Michael Jackson camp, over that documentary, but also a lot of anger from his fans, who feel that the media have all the time given this man a hard time. And you can certainly feel that if you ever cover a story, as I have done on several occasions, where Michael Jackson has involved. I've had bottles thrown at me just purely for being part of the media covering an event. You remember the baby dangling incident that happened during the filming of Living with Michael Jackson when he was in Berlin. That photograph of him on the balcony with his young child dangling or appearing to dangle the baby over to show all of his fans was reproduced, and of course Moving Images, as we're seeing now, was reproduced across the world. Many in the media portraying him as being a particularly bad father. And if you listen to several of the friends of Michael Jackson who you've been talking to tonight, Samantha, they all say that that is one charge you could not lay on him. He always appeared to be very solicitous when regarding his children, taking the trouble even to covering their faces with masks and handkerchiefs when he took them out in public so they wouldn't be identified. But he certainly is a cultural icon, not just for his music, but certainly, what he has shown us in terms of how the media has developed and how the media has covered celebrity stories.
Okay, Robert, for now, thank you. Well, let's just take a listen to what Michael Jackson was most famous for. This is one of his tracks from Off the Wall, one of his hit albums, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough.
I was wondering, if you could keep on, because the force, it's got a lot of power, and it makes me feel like it makes me feel like
He's our Elvis to an extent, just a crazy pop star, just, amazing music, that he made. Whatever else happened, I think people should always just remember him for the music, I think he's just, probably the last in the line of those pop stars who are just mad famous, crazy,
I imagine you, like me, I mean, we grew up when he was around, and yet it was maybe not, we didn't know so much about him, and yet you end up knowing everything about him and knowing all the songs. He seems to be one of those characters that, whether or not you're an uber fan or whether you're just a casual fan, you still, those songs don't go away, do they?
Well, you know, I was an uber fan, you know, when I was little, and I still am, you know. I mean, kind of taught everyone how to dance, how to sing, and just beautiful songs, you know, beautiful songs, you know. Some of the best pop music that's ever been made, and well, you know, I'm sorry for being not as eloquent as I'd like to be, but I'm just a bit in shock about it, you know. I mean, just spoke to people and people are in tears and stuff like that, you know. Just meant a lot to a lot of people, you know. Just fabulous pop star, what can you say?
As regards to influence on a lot of today's music, as people that you maybe see reviewing NME and things like that, I mean, it's quite far and wide spreading, isn't it? Are there any artists that spring to mind in particular that you think sort of took their lead?
Well, you know, I mean, there's hundreds of people who've, you know, everyone has been influenced by him, you know. Think about Ian Brown from the Stone Roses, covered his tracks, and, you know, there's just loads of bands who, you know, just, if you got the funk, you're into Michael Jackson, you know. That's the way it is, you know. He's just, apart from just being a great singer and a great pop star, he's made some incredible records with some incredible grooves, and, you know, that seeps into everything that we do, you know. It's what it's about. It's about, you know, really good, exciting music, and that's what he did, you know. That's what he's always done. He's always just done exciting, immediate pop music, and that's kind of what we're about, that's really, you know.
Particularly sad, obviously, given that this was meant to be 3 weeks away from what was meant to be his comeback, what we were being told would be the thing I put back on his stride.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a shame, you know, because he, you know, I think everyone was willing him to get back to his best, you know, and do something really incredible and win it back from obviously all the things that people, you know, were talking about and stuff, but it's not to be. But, you know, I still think the music will live on. I don't think that it's going to be to his detriment, you know. I mean, I just hope that people remember the music rather than all the other stuff, because at the end of the day, he's one of the best musicians that ever lived, you know. And I mean that, like, in terms of the Beatles, the Stones, Elvis Presley. He's up there, you know, and he's the modern equivalent of that. And if, you know, people just respect the music and, you know, respect that he was a troubled character for certain, but, you know, he made some amazing records, you know, and he's just a pop star, you know, great pop star.
Hamish, thanks ever so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time here at the Glastonbury Festival. As we say, everyone is shocked. Emily Eavis herself, of course, the daughter of Michael Eavis, the organiser here, has already put a message on the website just sort of expressing her just sadness and shock as well at what's gone on. And you can expect, as much as Glastonbury pales into sort of insignificance now based on this news, you can expect many tributes, many songs from the stage over the weekend. Some big names here. As Hamish was saying, as we've been saying, lots of people who've been influenced by him. So I expect Glastonbury will now be given over to Michael Jackson, as will the news all around the world.
OK, Steve, for now, thank you. Well, moments after hearing the news of Michael Jackson's death, his close friend Uri Geller spoke to me about his shock.
Everyone is devastated worldwide. It's shocking. Everyone was waiting for this huge comeback here in London. I know for a fact that he was rehearsing, practicing. He was in good shape. He sat right here where I'm sitting right now. He was my best man when I renewed my wedding vows. Just to think that the world lost Michael Jackson and Michael is not alive anymore is just unreal. It's surreal. It's still, I cannot penetrate into my psyche. I cannot believe that Michael is gone.
Uri Geller speaking to me a little earlier. Well, we've also had a statement in from Arnold Schwarzenegger, the governor of California. He has said the world has lost one of the most influential and iconic figures in the music industry. Though there were serious questions about his personal life, Michael was undoubtedly a great entertainer. Well, Robert Nesbitt, our US correspondent, is following events in Washington. And Robert, Arnold Schwarzenegger touching there on some of the complexities of Michael Jackson as a character, because obviously he will be remembered as a great entertainer, but he did have a very complex personal life and at times extremely controversial.
He did indeed. I can just add another very close friend of his, Brooke Shields. The actress Brooke Shields has just commented as well. That's just coming up on the computer screen. My heart is overcome with sadness for the devastating loss of my true friend Michael. He was an extraordinary friend, artist, and contributor to the world. I join his family and his fans in celebrating his incredible life and mourning his untimely passing. But yes, indeed, that's right, Samantha. He was a particularly controversial and divisive figure, although one thing that I think most people can agree on is certainly the quality of his music and the cultural impact that he made. Certainly, if you run the two timelines together, there is little doubt that certainly his troubles over child sex allegations, of which he was completely cleared, of course, and the first involving a young man at the time called Geordie Chandler never went to court because Michael Jackson settled outside because, as Uri Geller told Sky News earlier, he said under hypnosis he just couldn't take the pressure anymore. That there is no doubt that the story surrounding his personal life did lead, certainly in the United States, to people kind of peeling away their support from Michael Jackson, and that was reflected in his record sales, which although they held up certainly in parts of Europe and in Asia, they really did fall quite dramatically here in the US. And he became, I think, certainly since the millennium, he became really a figure of tabloid curiosity here only. And although people did appreciate, of course, his musical canon from the Motown years through to 79's Off the Wall and 83's the Thriller album, that they started not to buy his albums. And that certainly precipitated a financial situation for him from which he never really recovered. And there was some suggestion earlier on from people who've been talking on Sky News that maybe his decision to stage so many concerts in London wasn't a particularly wise one for a man who had suffered so many health problems.
Yeah, Robert, Uri Geller was saying to me earlier that he had his ups and downs with Michael Jackson, although he was his best man. He said they went through periods where they didn't talk. He believed that he was one of the few people who was honest with him. Was there very much a sense that Michael Jackson did surround himself by yes men? He didn't like to be told no, and therefore perhaps the reality of his situation was never really spelt out to him.
Well, one interesting element, I think, that came out of both the interviews that you conducted tonight with Uri Geller and Paul Gambaccini, the Radio 2 disc jockey, is both of them were talking about his voice. Now, when we think of Michael Jackson, we tend to think of that very high-pitched voice, but that was, according to many of his friends, that wasn't how he always spoke. He actually had a much gruffer, rougher voice that he used when he wasn't performing. And, you know, to be an artist to scale the heights that he did in the 80s, this is a man who was fairly uncompromising, certainly when it came to the musical choices that he made and the performance choices that he made. Certainly collaborating with Quincy Jones was obviously one of the cleverest that he did, but he also saw that the mood was changing, and then on Bad, he started to pick up more kind of hip-hop beats and was certainly starting to blend a lot more kind of the black and white that we were talking about earlier. So he knew where he was going, he knew what he was doing, but he couldn't control all of the media stories about him, and that may well be because he was such a huge pop star, and maybe Madonna is probably the only other person, you know, on the planet who could sympathize with what he went through, that when you become a star of such magnitude that it's almost impossible to contain the stories and the rumors surrounding you. And we have to remember that although people are talking about, as Arnold Schwarzenegger did in that statement, you know, alluding to the problems in his private life, he was never found guilty of abusing any children. A court cleared him on all charges, and the first incident was settled out of court. His argument was that he didn't want it to go to court because he didn't want discussions about his private life in public. So, you know, he had a tough time with the media. There is no doubt about it, but the flip side to this was that he used the media to promote his music and his talents as well. He played this Peter Pan of pop very effectively, and, you know, by wearing that mask, wearing that kind of panto mask that he did, you know, always performing, it made all of us in the media want to try and look behind the mask to try and work out who this Michael Jackson was.
OK, Robert, for now, thank you. Well, Hollywood actor and friend Joe Pesci spoke to Fox News about Michael Jackson's achievements.
Well, you know, his biggest moments for me all the time were just one hit after another one hit album. He always changed. He reinvented himself a number of times. I mean, with the glove and with the mask and all his little gimmicks and stuff. You know, he was a fun kid, and to me, I say kid. You know, he's a lot older now, and so am I. But he was always fun, and you know, he just did so much. He always reinvented himself time after time. And he certainly was a great entertainer, a great dancer. And, it was great to watch with all that energy. We all wondered how he did it. So maybe he blew his heart up, poor thing, you know.
I remember the moonwalk, and I remember everybody trying to do it, and nobody could figure it out. Nobody.
Yeah, well, everybody tried, but nobody ever really did any of that. Like Michael, you agree with that, don't you?
A 13-time Grammy winner, a member of the Songwriters Hall of Fame, not once but twice inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, once with the Jackson 5 and once solo, and over the history of his career, total sales tally of albums believed to approach 750 million. Joe, the numbers are just astounding.
That's amazing. It really is, and it's all well-deserved, if you ask me.
Is it your sense that he was excited about getting back to the stage?
Yes, I think he really was. I really think he was. He was, you know, downhearted for a while, and I think he finally got himself up because he always sounded a lot more happy, you know.
Hollywood actor and friend of Michael Jackson, Joe Pesci, giving his reaction a little earlier. Well, the music broadcaster and writer Paul Gambaccini said he thought the strains of Michael Jackson's forthcoming tour would take its toll on the star.
I'm sorry, of course. I'm stunned, but I can't say I'm really shocked because I had feared some kind of negative health result from these dates at the O2. I never thought that he would be able to do them all because he's a 50-year-old man with a poor recent health history, and to think that he could subject his body to this rigor was unrealistic. Now, what I didn't foresee was that the stress alone might be enough to fell him, and I'm sure we'll get medical reports throughout the next 24 hours to say exactly what did cause this attack, but I'm sure that the stress of these dates had something to do with it.
Did you know Michael Jackson? Had you seen him in recent years?
No, no. I know that Dermot O'Leary told me about it, hosting the O2 press conference, and he was surprised when Jackson embraced him that, of course, he's a tall man, over 6 foot. People, because they think of teeny cute Michael Jackson being 11 years old singing I Want You Back, and then this thin person, and I don't realize he was tall, and he was capable of speaking in a low voice as well as that strange high voice. And he was a middle-aged person with bad health history who had turned his body into a medical gymnasium, and this is sometimes what happens.
How will you remember him as a performer and entertainer?
I will remember him as the greatest showman I've ever seen. Not the most emotional. James Brown certainly gets that vote. But I saw him at Wembley Arena as part of the Jackson 5, at Wembley Stadium during the height of his solo success. And my late colleague and friend John Peel agreed with me, even though Michael Jackson was not his musical cup of tea, that he was the greatest showman in popular music history. He paid attention to every detail, and the effect was overwhelming. And he is the standard against which I still measure live acts.
Music broadcaster and writer Paul Gambaccini speaking to me a little earlier, giving his reaction to the news. This is the scene live outside UCLA Hospital in Los Angeles, where crowds of people are gathering to pay tribute and be part of this event. We've had reaction on Twitter from many stars from around the world, but musician Wyclef Jean has paid his own tribute, saying, "He lives forever in my heart. I will never forget the day he came to see me in the studio and I played him music. R.I.P. to Michael Jackson, my music god. Some lost Elvis Presley and we lost Michael Jackson. I cry today because Michael Jackson was a father that we all lost." Those thoughts from musician Wyclef Jean.
found out about everything you've done.
Really?
I know. You know what?
My little sister.
You've got to finish what you started. This is it for you. You're a dead man.
Martina Cole's The Take, the final episode, Wednesday at 9, Sky 1 and Sky 1 HD.
Are you alright, Mr. Scarecrow? I like these. They've got real fruit juice in them. Do you know that? Bet you'd love some of these, wouldn't you? There you go, mate. See you.
Hold tight now! New Fruity Starburst Smoothies!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the party. Our new Sinatra slot. Play tonight at partycasino.com. Feel it.
Mama says the calcium and vitamin D in my Petit Filou helps my bones grow stronger.
Petit Filou, from your play.
It's reassuring to know that a company that touches so much of the environment is doing everything it can to help preserve it too.
Let's just show you the scene live at UCLA Hospital in Los Angeles, where media crews and hundreds of people are gathering to pay their respects as Michael Jackson, the 50-year-old pop star, died tonight. We're also getting reaction on Twitter from stars around the world. The latest in from Craig David, UK pop star. He's posted a message saying, "Time to truly appreciate a legend. May his soul rest in peace. The king of pop." And Lance Armstrong, the cyclist, has said terrible news about Michael Jackson. And of course, he remembers Farrah Fawcett, the Hollywood actress who also died yesterday. My best to their friends, fans and families. We've also been inundated with emails and text messages from people here on Sky News. Let's just give you some of those coming into us. Many people talking about how he was appreciated as a musician by not just people who might be of his generation, but younger people as well. One text in saying, "Michael Jackson was a musical genius. I grew up listening to his music and he influenced my adolescence. His music will live on." Let's bring you a couple of other emails into us here at Sky News. Just bear with me while I bring some of those up. Yeah. Let me just show you pictures. These pictures coming into us of the UCLA hospital there. Yeah, crowds gathering, pay their respects. This will be a huge cultural phenomena, a day that many people will remember, and people gathering to pay their respects. This is a huge site at UCLA, but no doubt people will continue to gather as the day rolls on there. Well, at 12:21, 911 received that call from people at Michael Jackson's home. Paramedics arrived and they said that Michael Jackson had suffered a cardiac arrest. They attempted CPR, but unfortunately their attempts failed. He was then rushed to UCLA Hospital. The TMZ website, which broke this story tonight, said that the people with him were screaming, "Please save him, please save him." Let's bring you other reaction from around the world. Morning TV shows from Sydney to Tokyo have interrupted their programming to report the news of Michael Jackson's death. And online fan pages dedicated to the King of Pop became impromptu memorial sites. Well, in Sydney, where Michael Jackson married his second wife, Debbie Rowe, that was in 1996, commuters in the business district have stopped outside TV studios to watch coverage on outdoor monitors. In Brazil, movie director and musician Felipe Machado called Michael Jackson perhaps the best performer that ever existed. In Japan, where Michael Jackson was a massive star in the 1980s, residents have shocked. One 35-year-old Tokyo resident said, "It's really hard to believe he's dead. It seems so unreal." Those sentiments repeated by people throughout the world tonight. Our entertainment correspondent is at Glastonbury. He's been talking to people as they prepare for that music event this weekend. People of all ages, with all musical tastes, say they will remember him. Of course, many of the stars there are influenced by Michael Jackson. Well, of course, Michael Jackson was due to start a 50-day tour at London's O2 Arena in just a couple of weeks' time. A spokeswoman for the outside organisation, which was organising the publicity for this concert, said she had no comment to make at this time. We're also getting response from publicist Max Clifford. He first met Michael Jackson in the 60s when Max Clifford was working at record label EMI's press office. He said that he spoke to the singer most recently 3 weeks before reality TV star Jade Goody died earlier this year, when apparently he said Michael Jackson asked to visit her. While Mr. Clifford has been giving his reaction, he said, "It's a terrible shock. You wonder if the strain of getting fit for this major tour proved too much. In recent pictures, he looked anything but healthy. That's the first thought that went through my mind. Worldwide, his fans are going to be devastated. He was incredibly close to his fans, and he had a loyal following right up to the end, as shown by his sellout shows." Well, Matt Blank from the Michael Jackson World Network fan club has said that he was dumbfounded and a bit shell-shocked by it all. He added, "I find it hard to believe this could be a reality." We've been getting reaction here on Sky News from people, including Uri Geller, who was a close friend of Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was, in fact, his best man at his wedding. The first time we spoke to him, he was too shocked to give any reaction at all. He said he simply couldn't believe it. He had to go. We did speak to him then a short time later, and he said that although they had had their differences over the years, he was one of the people that he believed was very honest with Michael Jackson, and he said that he believed him to be fit and healthy. Well, let's talk to the LA County Coroner's Office now. For the very latest. A very good evening to you. If you can tell me, this news confirmed just within the last 2 hours.
Yes, I can confirm that Michael Jackson was pronounced dead today at approximately 2:26 p.m. California time at the Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center in the city of Westwood.
And Mr. Corral, can you tell us the sequence of events, if you could?
The information we received from the detectives was that Mr. Jackson was transported from his residence by paramedics to the hospital emergency room in full arrest and was pronounced dead a short time later. The fact that he had no doctor in attendance to sign the death certificate, we are getting involved. He is a coroner's case, and he will be brought to the coroner's office where an examination will be done to determine the cause of death.
Let's just listen to...
Mr. Jackson was pronounced over at UCLA Medical
Let's
Center.
Let's just listen to medical staff at the UCLA hospital.
Robbery Homicide Division was notified of this incident and directed by the Chief of Police to come out and handle the death investigation. Currently, the LA County Coroner's Office is taking possession of Mr. Jackson's body. They will handle any other inquiries into the type of death or anything as it relates to that at that point in time.
Was there any signs inside that he was over-medicated?
I have no further information than what I gave you at this time.
Can you tell us what you were looking for inside, Lieutenant, and what you saw and found?
Again, like I said, I have no further information to give you at this time. I'm sorry, but at this point in time, it's a coroner's investigation. So any of those questions will have to be directed to the LA County Coroner's Office.
Is it a suspicious death, Lieutenant? Is it suspicious death? The fact that you're here?
He was in and where he was when he was stricken?
The Los Angeles Police Department handles death investigations every day. Robbery homicide was assigned to this because of the high-profile nature of it. Don't read into anything as it relates to my team being here. Just by the fact of all of you being here caused the chief to decide that we should handle this investigation.
Can you tell us the nature, how you...
I've got nothing else for you guys, okay? Thank you very much.
Great, okay, everybody, let's be more respectful.
That was Lieutenant Greg Streck from the Los Angeles Police Force saying that They are handling the death of Michael Jackson. He said a coroner's investigation is underway. He said that they handle death investigations every day. When asked whether there were suspicious circumstances surrounding this death, he urged journalists not to read anything into them being there. He said they were asked to be there, the Los Angeles Police Department, because of the very nature of this very high-profile death of Michael Jackson. Well, I was just speaking to Fred Correll from the coroner's office. Mr. Correll, thanks very much for staying with us. You were just taking us through the sequence of events this evening concerning Michael Jackson.
That's correct. As I said, he will be brought to the coroner's office later today, and then at which point tomorrow he will be autopsied, and afterwards the results will then be founded and the cause of death will then be given at that time.
And I don't know if you were able to comment on who was with Michael Jackson when he was brought into the hospital at all.
No, ma'am. At that point, I do not know who was with him. Everything is still preliminary. We have not gone to the hospital yet to get the medical records and to meet with the detectives. All I can tell you is what I've already given to you at this point. We'll get further information once my investigator gets their reviews, interviews the detectives, and talks with the family.
And as you said, you're expecting the autopsy to take place at some point today. Do you expect that there'll be a statement with regard to that, the exact cause of death today?
No, it'll be done tomorrow, not today.
Sorry, excuse me.
The examination will be done tomorrow.
Yeah, obviously Friday, we're on a different time zone here, but do you expect on Friday that there will be an official announcement regarding the exact cause of death?
Yes, ma'am, there should be.
OK, Fred Correll, thank you very much for joining us. That latest there from the LA Coroner's Office, that there will be an autopsy on Michael Jackson. We were also just hearing from the Los Angeles Police Department that a coroner's investigation, as we're hearing, is now underway. They have been brought in to handle the death of Michael Jackson. They say that there should be nothing read into that, but it is the very fact that it is a high-profile death and there is a huge media interest in this. That is why they've been brought in. But he didn't comment as to whether there were any suspicious circumstances, but seemed to imply that there were not. We are expecting today, Friday, for there to be an autopsy and an official cause of death to be announced. These are pictures broadcast on Hollywood TV earlier today of the Los Angeles paramedics picking up Michael Jackson, taking him to the UCLA hospital. That news breaking just several hours ago. The 50-year-old pop icon Michael Jackson has died tonight.
Ryvita pumpkin seed crisp bread with yogurt, cucumber and mint.
Help get ready for summer with Ryvita.
Ooh, I love a nice portion of salt and vinegar. Ryvita minis.
Delicious Ryvita minis with only 3% fat.
Sainsbury's Butcher's Choice sausages are made with British pork. A third off makes them the perfect choice for your barbecue.
Some memories are just too precious to lose. That's why we've created the world's lightest Full HD camcorders with touchscreen focus tracking. Helping you preserve life's epic moments in stunning full high definition. The new TM10 and SD10, because reliving the moment matters. Panasonic, ideas for life.
Mowing can be a pain, but not with new Evergreen Mow It Less lawn food. It's formulated to go right to the root, giving you a thicker, greener lawn. And it needs less cutting than a standard fertilised lawn. So you can spend more time relaxing in the garden. New Evergreen Mow It Less.
Boys, don't mind me, just making myself at home.
It can only be an Ashes summer, the 8th of July on Sky Sports.
You're watching Sky News with continuing coverage of our breaking news for you. Pop legend, the king of pop, Michael Jackson, has died in Los Angeles. We'll be live in the city for you. We'll be looking back at his spectacular but controversial career. Michael Jackson's fans tell us what the singer meant to them. And of course, our website, skynews.com, has all the background for you. Let me just recap for you that the king of pop, Michael Jackson, has died in the last few hours in Los Angeles. We'll bring you more after this very short break.
This evening, over the Cape of Good Hope, we expect to see swirling inky clouds of a classic full-bodied red.
Summertime, living is easy. We had 27 yesterday, and over the next few days, I think we'll be up to 30 in one or two spots. There's a 50% chance of a thunderstorm turning up, though, for parts of Wales and England. The cloud today, this afternoon, was well scattered. Look at the cloud hugging the Aberdeen coast, making it a grey, cool world there. Thunderstorms, though, have broken out over Somerset and into the south of Wales, just skirting past Glastonbury. A fairly soft, light wind, so when they do turn up, they could last a while. Through the night, about 3 o'clock in the morning, a good drenching for Glastonbury. And then during Friday, it looks like there'll be a nice summery slip through the middle, more cloud and even some drizzle onto the Aberdeen coast. And then maybe some sharp, thundery showers turning up at Wimbledon in the afternoon of Friday. But many places will be warm and fine. Abroad, lots of thunderstorms, lots of thunderstorms.
Qatar Airways, world's 5-star airline.
You're watching Sky News. This morning's breaking news dominates our coverage.